My girlfriend gave birth to our first child and I know I'm not the biological father, so I revealed I knew as soon as she gave birth. When my girlfriend, 28, told me, 31, she was pregnant I couldn't have been happier. We had been trying for a baby for a while. The doctor had told me I had low sperm count but it wasn't impossible for us to have a baby so we held off on therapy. Now we finally conceived. I couldn't wait for the baby to be born. I started reading baby books and buying stuff for the kid, all the things new fathers do. One day I was taking a break at work when a guy I had never seen before came up to me and asked if I was John. I told him yeah, then he explains to me that he was seeing my girlfriend while we were dating. They met at a work convention and saw each other for a few months before they broke it off. When she found out she was pregnant she knew it was his. She called him and they decided the best thing they could do was say it was mine. That way my girlfriend wouldn't have to come out as a cheater and the guy Michael was his name was not really ready to have a baby so it worked out for him too. They thought it would be best if they just passed it off as mine. But then Michael started feeling guilty about the whole thing. He said he couldn't let me raise his child thinking it was mine. He asked me not to tell my girlfriend he had spoken to me. He said he didn't want her to be upset during the pregnancy. He didn't want her to lose or abort the baby. Staying with my girlfriend through the last months of the pregnancy was one of the hardest things I did. But I knew Michael was right. The affair wasn't the baby's fault. He or she deserved to come to term in a healthy environment. So I just waited it out. A few months went by and my girlfriend had the baby. I helped her in every way I could. I carried her bag and took her to the hospital. I was in the hospital room with her. I acted like a good boyfriend while she gave birth. She gave me the baby to hold and that's when I told her everything. I told her how I had met up with Michael and that I knew the baby wasn't mine. I also told her that I didn't trust her and didn't want to stay with her. I knew that leaving my girlfriend with a new baby would serve her right for what she did to me. But leaving that baby in the hospital that day was one of the hardest things I've ever done. My girlfriend has called many times to try and get back together but I just ignore her. Am I the jerk? My girlfriend loved her cat more than me, so I switched it out with a uglier look-alike. My girlfriend Jacqueline, 28, and I had a good relationship. There was just one thing getting in the way, her cat Juliet. Jacqueline was so crazy about that cat. She had pictures of it all over her social media but there were barely any pictures of us together. She also had pictures of the cat all over her house. She had clothes and coffee mugs made with images of the cat. It was driving me crazy. It seemed like Jacqueline was getting crazier over this cat every day. I asked her to go on a romantic getaway with me but she said no because she didn't want a stranger to watch the cat. I would ask her to come to the bedroom with me to fool around and she would say no because Juliet was on the bed sleeping and she didn't want to wake her up. Come on. The cat sleeps 16 hours a day. When she came home from work she wouldn't even bother to kiss me hello. She just ran straight for the cat. Finally I had enough. I took Juliet to the cat shelter. At first I was just going to give her away and tell my girlfriend she ran off. But when I got to the shelter I had a better idea. Juliet was a great tabby so there were a lot of cats that looked like her. One of them was feral. The people at the shelter told me she was very shy but she would lash out and scratch and claw if anyone tried to get too close to her. I decided to adopt the feral cat. Jacqueline would never be able to tell the difference. My girlfriend came home from work later that day and immediately ran for Juliet like she usually does. But this time Juliet didn't run up to her and kiss her. She hid under the bed. When my girlfriend tried to reach for her the cat attacked her. She bit and scratched my girlfriend and then ran off in a corner. For the next few days my girlfriend tried everything to get Juliet to behave but she just kept up with the bad behavior. My girlfriend decided to take the cat to the vet. The vet told her it was a different cat. After a while she put two and two and realized that I had to have switched out the cat. When she asked me about it I didn't deny it. I told her I was getting really sick of being second best to a cat. I told her it served her right. Then I told her she could leave and take all her stupid cat stuff with her. I knew she didn't have a great job and would have a hard time finding a place especially with that feral cat she was going to have to take with her. Am I the jerk? My girlfriend said no when I proposed as a joke, so I destroyed her life as a joke. My girlfriend Shelby, 24, and I had a good relationship. There was just one thing that bothered me. She made a joke out of everything. It's great that she has a sense of humor but sometimes I like to be serious. Like I'll try on clothes and ask her if I look okay and she says, no you look terrible. So, I start hunting for new clothes because she sounds so serious. Then after a few minutes she says she's only kidding. Or I'll ask her if she could bring me a glass of water, and she will say no, but a minute later she gets up and brings me water. I'll ask her if she wants to eat. She says no. Then a minute later she starts listing off what she wants for dinner. Even though Shelby's habit was annoying I loved her very much. In addition to being a great girl she was also a successful business person. I knew we wouldn't have to worry about money if I got married. I truly loved her. This is when I decided I was going to ask her to marry me. I made a reservation at our favorite restaurant. I dressed up in a nice suit and bought a beautiful expensive ring. When dessert came, I knew it was time. I got down on one knee and asked her to marry me. She said no. She told me she didn't think she was ready, and she even said that she thought I should get a better job. I could feel my heart sink in my chest. Everyone in the restaurant was looking at me. I was so embarrassed. I walked out right away. I was at the curb waiting for the valet when Shelby met up with me. She said that she was only kidding, and it was obviously a joke. She said that she wants to marry me. I was so mad about what happened and the way she let it go on. I said, forget it, I don't want to marry you anymore, and I left. Time went on and Shelby kept calling me. She begged me to forgive her. She said she still loved me. She also said if I took her back, she would change her ways so finally I gave in. I started seeing her again. But I never totally forgave her. We were taking it slow waiting to see if things would work out. One day Shelby asked me if I wanted to go out to dinner after work. I said sure, where do you want to go? She mentioned the restaurant we went to when she turned down my proposal. We hadn't been there since we broke up. It had so many bad memories, I could barely answer her. Then she says, "Only kidding." She thought that whole day was a joke. I had enough. I was through. I told her I never wanted to speak to her again. Time had passed and I came home from work one day. When I got home and opened the light, my girlfriend's entire family was in our home. Once I looked down, I saw my girlfriend on one knee. She asked me to marry her. I stopped for a moment and looked around. Everyone was so excited. Eager for me to answer, she clears her throat to get my attention. I look at her and say that I would never marry a girl like you in my entire life, and your family needs to leave immediately. I escorted everyone out of my house. She was so embarrassed. Later that day, she called me and said that the joke is over now. I said, "What joke?" and hung up. Am I the jerk? My girlfriend brought her ex to the Taylor Swift concert instead of me, so I brought her to the homeless shelter. My girlfriend loved Taylor Swift. She had Taylor Swift everything. The house was covered in Taylor Swift posters. She played her music all the time. I didn't mind that my girlfriend liked her, but sometimes I wondered if it made me second best to her ex, Connor. He loved Taylor Swift. They were still friendly, but their relationship was over. I bought my girlfriend Taylor Swift tickets for her birthday. My girlfriend didn't work, so there was no way she could afford tickets on her own at those crazy prices. I knew she would be very happy. I bought her 2 tickets. I offered to go, but I told her that I didn't really care since I wasn't a huge fan. If she wanted to give the other ticket to her best Swiftie girlfriend Brianna, I was okay with that too. She said she would go with Bri. The day of the concert came and my girlfriend spent hours getting ready. She had to find the perfect thing to wear. Everything had to be just right. I was in the living room watching TV when she left. She walked in to give me a kiss. I thought it was weird that Brianna wasn't there. I figured they were going together. "Brianna isn't here?" I asked. No, she's meeting me at the concert," she answered, sounding uncomfortable. Then she left. I stayed up the next few hours watching TV. I figured my girlfriend was posting pictures of the show on Instagram, and I was right. She had some photos of herself in front of the stage, a few pics of Taylor, and then a selfie of her and her ex. They were sitting together in the seats I bought for hundreds of dollars. How could she? I got on my phone and started texting her. "You went with Connor?" I asked. She didn't text back. I kept texting her, but still no answer. I expected her home around midnight, but she didn't come home, so I crawled into bed. I heard her creep in at 4 in the morning. She smelled like booze. I didn't want to start screaming at her in the middle of the night, so I waited until the next morning. She came into the kitchen at 11 a.m. looking very hungover. I started screaming at her and demanding her to tell me why she went to the concert with her ex. She started to explain that Brianna flaked on her at the last minute, but I didn't want to hear it. She lied to me by telling me she would see Brianna at the concert and she knew she could have asked me to go. I was sickened that I had spent so much money on a ticket for her ex, and I didn't even want to think about why she came home so late last night. I demanded her to leave my home immediately. Then I started throwing her stuff out into the hallway. I just grabbed everything out of her closet and drawers and threw it out the door. What am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? She kept asking me. You know I have no job. So I grabbed her stuff, threw it into my car and drove her straight to the homeless shelter. I haven't seen her since. Am I the jerk? My girlfriend laughed when I proposed to her, so I laughed as I made her homeless. My girlfriend Rachel and I started dating when we met in high school. She was a sweet girl, but she had a lot of problems at home. Her mother had died when she was 10 and she never knew her father. She was unhappy, so my family offered to let her live with us. She and I lived together in our finished basement. Now, me and Rachel have been together for 7 years, and I knew that it was finally time to propose. I was working in a grocery store. They had just promoted me to manager. I knew that Rachel liked the finer things in life and I worked really hard to keep her happy, so I saved my money. But whenever I could, I would spend it to take her to nice restaurants and buy her things she liked. I didn't have much money for a ring, but I bought the best thing I could find. I figured I would get her a nicer one when we had more money. I was sure she would understand. I dressed in my best suit. I took her out to a fancy restaurant that she had wanted to go to for a long time. A few minutes after we were seated, I told Rachel to order whatever she wanted, no matter how expensive it is. When it was the perfect time, I got down on one knee, looked at her in the eyes, and asked her to marry me. When I busted out with a ring, Rachel started laughing. I was so excited. She was laughing and was so happy because I finally proposed to her after years. But she just kept laughing and laughing. Tears were coming out of her eyes. I asked her why she was laughing, but she couldn't answer me because she was laughing so hard. Now I was a bit confused, but I went on with it. She saw that I was looking at her, wondering what was going on. She finally calmed down enough to tell me what was so funny. She said the diamond is so tiny, and it is impossible to see it without a microscope. Then she looked at me and said that she would never marry a man that would disrespect her like that. She called me broke and a lazy grocery store employee. Then she started laughing even harder. To make things worse, everyone in the restaurant was looking at us and laughing too. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I knew Rachel had expensive taste, but I thought she loved me. I walked out of the restaurant. I had never been more humiliated in my life. I went in my car and left without Rachel. When I got home, the first thing I did was take Rachel's things and throw them out the window. I didn't want to have anything to do with her. When she got back, she asked me what was going on. I told her I didn't want to date her anymore. I said our relationship is over. Even though Rachel had expensive taste, she didn't come from money. Her family was poor. I knew this, so I kicked her out that day. Rachel doesn't have much family, and her mom didn't take her in, so she's probably sleeping on the streets. Am I the jerk?